Hi, Graham from Concept Music again, and today we're going to ask and answer a few questions that we get every day here in the shop. And after 40 years, that's a lot of questions. And one of the most common is, what instrument should I start on? And that could be for a child or an adult. Now, generally with a child, very often you'll find that they already know what they want and you just got to let them run with it. So if they really want to play the drums and that's all they want to play and you don't know why, let them run with drums. If they want to play guitar and that's all they want to play, let them run with guitar, unless they're too small. If they're far too small, you might direct them towards a ukulele first, because really quality guitars that play in tune, there's not much point before they're about 8 or 9 years of age. So less than that, you're looking at something like a ukulele. And there's some amazingly good ukulele players, very young, if you want to Google that and have a look on YouTube. Generally speaking, if you're not sure, my advice is to start on a piano or keyboard. So once they hit about 8 or 9, reading and writing, it makes it easier for some of the books and the materials that they've got. I think piano is a really good way to start, piano or keyboard. Keyboard in the sense that there's a visual context for the kids to understand music theory. You can look at a keyboard and you can explain what a scale is, you can explain what a chord is, and those understandings are very easily then transferred to another instrument, whether that's flute or trumpet or guitar. If someone's starting on trumpet, for instance, and they really want to play trumpet, that's great, but when you're trying to teach them what a scale is, all they'll see is a load of twiddling fingers and listening to noises. On a piano, you can explain that, and then they can transfer it to trumpet later. And the same goes for flute, the same goes for saxophone and even guitar. But I guess the main thing is to let them start and to get them started. If there's something they really want to do, let that guide you, because it's best not to try and divert their enthusiasm to something they don't really want to do and are therefore less likely to keep going on. Other than that, piano is a great foundation instrument for them to learn some theory and apply that to any other instrument you're going to learn. The age question comes up for learning a musical instrument as well in two ways. One, is my child too young? And two, am I too old? Because very often parents start their musical journey when their kids do as well. Or they get to a stage in their 20s or the 30s where they go, I wish I'd learned an instrument, but I'm too old now. And I'm here to guarantee that you are not too old. Know if you start in your 30s or 40s, you won't be as good as if you'd started when you were 8 or 9, because you won't have that 20 or 30 year journey beforehand. But I've taught many adults, and I personally have loved teaching adults because they come with a very open, different expectation than a young child. Kids often don't understand that they're going to have to practice. Parents or adults often have got a very low expectation of what they're going to be able to achieve, and therefore they overachieve very easily. The oldest student I've ever had was a trombone player who was in his 80s. So it is possible, and he went on to play in one of the local community bands. So it's not too old. You are not too old to start learning an instrument. Now, having said that, it's better if you start young. Obviously, you'll be a better musician and a better player if you started at 7 or 8 or 9 years of old than if you've started in your 80s, like my dear trombone student. What's too young? Well, a young mum friend of mine came in the other day and she's bought a ukulele for her baby that is due to be born next week. So that's about the right age for me. It's a bit like, when's the best time to plant a tree? For me, to have your child growing up surrounded by some musical instruments and music is something that makes it extremely natural for them, and therefore they're very likely to see it as a normal thing to do as they grow up and get older. As far as formal lessons is concerned, of course there is things like Suzuki violin methods which will cater for 3 and 4 year olds. There's a lot of little community teaching schools where they have preschool lessons for kids, but formal lessons, my view is, once they can read and write and understand those kind of comprehensions, at about 7 or 8 is about the right time to start. And that could be on a guitar, it could be on a piano, as I've said, as being probably the best instrument to start in my view. Some of the wind instruments, we get little kids dying to play saxophone. They won't be big enough until they're 11 or 12. Things like flute, where their arms have got to grow long enough, probably more like 10 or 11. But 7 or 8 on a keyboard is a fantastic age to start. Another question we get people ask a lot is, how much should I spend on my musical instrument? And of course that can take you into, you want to play the flute, you want to play the guitar, I'll Google, I'll have a look online, and you've seen flutes online for $99, and you come into your local music shop and they start at $800. And you go, well, that's ridiculous. Why would I go to a music shop and buy an instrument when I can get them so cheap online? And I can tell you that buying a good quality instrument to start learning on is going to be the best decision that you could make. Yes, we've got a vested interest in you coming into our music store, but it's a very, very different experience and result and outcome if you go to a music store to buy an instrument than just buying something that you can't touch or feel or listen to or inspect when it's online just because it's cheap. So please buy online if you know what you're buying. If it's a good brand and a good model and you've seen a bargain, go for it. If you don't know what it is and nobody's ever heard of it, steer away from it. You'll be buying trouble. And I cannot tell you how much of our time is taken up in here with people who have bought instruments, very inexpensive instruments online. They don't work. They bring them in and ask us if we can fix them. And very often it's just impossible. At the very best, they're harder to play. They don't produce a good sound. At the very worst, they just don't play at all. So just be cautious. We are here to help. Yes, as I've said, we've got a vested interest in you coming to a music store, but there's a reason for that. We've got over 100 years experience in serving customers and helping people choose instruments in the store. I've got over 40 years just myself. So we are used to the questions. There are no dumb questions. Even if you're going to buy online, come into a shop first, have a look at them, touch them, feel them, play them, inspect them, and you can see what the difference is. You can hear what the difference is. And if you're going to learn a musical instrument, the best way to do it is with something that plays easily, in tune, and that sounds good. It'll be more encouraging, you'll have a lot more fun, and you're more likely to continue with it. Often we get questions about brands as well, and there's the view that, oh, but if I pay for a brand name like Yamaha or Fender or Martin, and I'm just paying for the name. My argument against that would be, or perhaps my supportive argument for that would be that yes, you probably are paying a premium in the sense that those international brands with longevity, with a serious history like Yamaha, like Fender, are investing continually hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in their research, in developing new instruments, in making them easier to play, in making them a better instrument. Progressively, year by year by year, the instruments that we're seeing come onto the market are beautiful now compared to what they were 30, 40, 50 years ago. The quality control, the design features are just improving out of sight every year. You can get some lovely quality instruments without spending a lot of money. We often get asked about other brands of instruments which, to be honest, we've never heard of. And the world is so small now, with Google at your fingertips, there is hundreds of thousands of brands. And of course, a music shop cannot stock every brand that's available in the world or every model. Even in guitars, we're surrounded by guitars here. We've chosen what we believe to be the very best instruments, the best value with the best resale, but all they're the instruments that are easiest to play. And most importantly for us, because we don't want hassle, we don't want you to have any hassles, is are they reliable? Are they supported by a backup of spare parts? Do they have a good warranty? And if we inspect an instrument and we know that we're not going to get the backup or the service or the support, or there's going to be issues, or it has to go back overseas, it's something we won't stock. It's in our best interest, it's in your best interest for us to stock quality brands with excellent support, with very good spare parts availability, and with an excellent warranty. Now that forms the basis of the instruments that we stock, and of course, we have to love them. Of course, one of the things I love about working here, and one of the reasons I think there's a benefit in you going to a music store like Concept Music to buy an instrument, is the environment. The environment just to look at the instruments, the colours, the sounds, the smells, but also the people who work in the music stores. All the staff that work here are passionate about music. They're all professional musicians with professional playing experience. They've all started somewhere. They've all started as a little kid or as a beginner. They know what it's like to learn a musical instrument. They know how scary it is to walk into a music shop for the first time. And we want to make it as easy as possible for you. So they want to talk to you about learning music. They want to talk to you about music in general. So come in and talk to the staff and use their experience and enjoy the environment that were created by employing musicians. And that's part of, for us, what makes it fun to come to work every day. Something else I love about going to a music store and seeing the instruments yourself for real up close is that you can actually, certainly in here anyway, if you look around, there are no signs saying don't touch, there are no signs saying please ask for assistance. We want you to touch and feel and listen to the instruments. So Yes, you can do your research online, but coming into the store and picking up an instrument and feeling it and sitting down with it and listening to it, even if you can't play, that's an experience and it's part of the journey that you'll never ever forget. Another question we get a lot is, can I teach myself, or can I just go online and get lessons, or should I find a music teacher? And that's a very hard one to give a specific answer to, because people do have different learning styles. Some people are very good at sitting down with a book and looking at it and reading it and applying it. My personal view is you'll make the best, fastest progress by going to a teacher and having some one-on-one lessons. Now that might be a friend, or it might be someone who's listed on Concept Music's website as a teacher that's local to our area that we know. But sitting down with a teacher, observing you playing, is very, very different from reading a book or watching a YouTube and trying to replicate it. The great thing about YouTube is you can be so up close and impersonal with just about any artist in the world. Whereas in the good old days, I'm hearing my father talk to me now, where we had a record player, a cassette player, and you just had to listen because you couldn't see people, you couldn't talk to people. YouTube has exposed just such a massive amount of content, and there are people like Yamaha and Fender producing fantastic content to help people learn. But in my view, there's nothing better than sitting down with an experienced player or teacher, having them watch you, doing it with them, and let them give you the feedback, the live feedback that you need to help you make the best possible progress. My advice, get a teacher. Even if it's only for a few lessons, get started right. Don't get mistakes ingrained as habits before you go to a teacher. Do it right from the beginning, get the feedback and the input, and you'll take off a lot more quickly.